All right. Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to Good Morning Healdsburg, at least this version. We've had a couple of months where we haven't had it, so I'm sure you're jonesing for another dose of this. It is one of the, we talked about this before, one of the great things that we have in Healdsburg is this ability to have the city meet with the chamber and everybody who wants to come and be able to speak to the people who kind of run things, which you don't necessarily get in other cities, at least the ones I've been involved with in the past. So it's small enough to do that in a way, and everybody's open to it. And, it's just been a great venue for dialogue for the city over the years. And I know I really appreciate it. I'm sure everybody else who attends this, and it's usually a pretty well attended meeting, actually much better attended now that we do it by Zoom than in person. So I'd like to once give a shout out, of course, to Talia, who's been ill. Sorry, Talia. And to Dave, and let's see, we've got Evelyn's here, got Ariel. Welcome, everybody. Anyway, and probably most importantly, we have our guest speaker, Stephen Sotomayor, here with us. Stephen, as you all know, I'm sure, is the housing director for the city of Healdsburg. He oversees the city's affordable housing and homeless services program. He comes with a lot of experience in this area. He worked for the chief executive office of the County of Los Angeles, where he oversaw the county's legislative portfolio, affordable housing, homelessness, and public social services. He's engaged in a lot of programs and services there. He was a principal author of the city and county of Los Angeles's homeless initiative, a plan that led to the passage of their Measure H, which generated nearly $355 million a year for homelessness, housing, and services. And just as importantly for all of us, he was a former Army captain and veteran of the Operation Iraq Freedom. And Stephen, welcome, and thank you for your service. Both to the city of Healdsburg and to the United States.
Both were my pleasure, and I appreciate you having me here today. I really appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit more about what we're doing in housing. And is this the appropriate time to jump into the presentation?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
I didn't want to jump over any introductions, but I'll just briefly reintroduce myself as Stephen Sotomayor. I was your housing administrator, and as of August 1st, the housing department was created by the city council, and I have a presentation, so I'll go ahead and share my screen here, and I'm hoping I'm going to do it well. Okay. Can people see the PowerPoint on that?
Yeah.
Or is there anything else there, or is it just the PowerPoint? I'm sorry.
I kind of got the whole screen, but the PowerPoint's the main part of it.
Okay. Is that it?
Yep.
That's it.
We have okay, good. I'm sorry, guys. I've been having trouble sometimes with the sharing of the screen lately, yeah. And I've been getting part of it. I just want to make sure that I'm doing it right. Okay, great.
We have your presenter view right now, the PowerPoint presenter view.
Oh, see, and that's the challenge, is I don't know how to get out of that.
I think if you click one to the right, otherwise,
or right?
Yeah, usually it's up in the top under view.
I apologize.
No worries, you can actually see the thing fine. So it's just, if you have notes in there, we're going to be able to see them.
I have no notes. I'm winging it. So no, I'm kidding.
Now it's dictating.
Yeah.
I apologize. I wish on one screen of mine it's working, but I won't delay the rest of the meeting for that. I think as long as you can see it, that works. Well, as I said, very happy to announce that our housing department has grown a little bit. And with that, we will be able to, expand upon what we've already been doing. And today, if I did have one message, it would be that we are doing a great job at achieving our goals that the state has set out for us on housing. But one of the things that's most important to keep in mind is what local goals are going to achieve the results that the community has asked for. So today I'll mix a little bit of both of those, but I'd like to start just by saying that with the housing department starting, and actually here with us today is the first hire of the housing department is Griselda Villarreal, who's also here with us today. She will start on Monday, October 10th, which is next Monday. I'm very excited to have Griselda join the team. She's already with the city of Healdsburg, and she's at the front counter with the permit. And you may have, if you pulled the permit, you may have run into Griselda, but now she'll be moving on to housing. Recently completed her master's of public administration. Like I said before, very excited to have her on board. And with that, you know, there's going to be a couple things that we can anticipate improving, such as the ability to assist clients faster. As you can imagine, having one point of contact for the multiple inquiries that we have within our city is a little bit difficult at times to follow up in a quick manner, but having an expanded staff will give us that capacity. Project delivery, we have a ton of projects in the books right now, and with the construction at the L&M, Saggio Hills, 155 Dry Creek, the Burbank scattered site projects that we have currently under construction, having a additional focus on that and having more project management is going to only benefit in getting those projects delivered quicker. Expanding of affordable housing monitoring is something that I did want to highlight. Recently, the civil grand jury came out with findings that monitoring of affordable housing across the county could see improvement or higher staffing levels. And so we have expanded that not only in our budget, but also by adding a position to be able to focus more on that. It's not that we haven't been doing affordable housing monitoring, but we can expand upon that to ensure that those that are in the units should be in the units, and that we are getting everything that we can out of the contracts that we have with these developers. And then finally, you know, expanded capacity to seek additional grants. I think this is going to be huge, is the ability to have additional staff looking to bring money in to advance the goals of the city council and the community. Is going to be another great benefit of expanding out the housing department. And most importantly, one thing that I'm very excited about is that Griselda will be able to reach out in a bilingual manner to both to our community that can, English is not their primary language, and be able to have more outreach in Spanish to make sure that people are accessing services, have the information at the same time, and have that readily available to them. So these are all huge positive things that are occurring here, and excited to share that with you, and excited to introduce Griselda today. And so now there's two faces to the housing department, so that's great. So moving on, I did want to talk really quick just about some of the projects that we have currently under construction, and then the projects that we have in the pipeline. Under construction currently, we have the L&M Village, as many are aware. This project is currently under construction. We expected to have it occupied by November 21st, which is the state mandated deadline to have this operation in place. As you may know, the L&M Village will provide 22 units of extremely low income housing for those experiencing homelessness, and will be a shelter that will be available for our police department to be able to use, and when they have interventions with those experiencing homelessness, to provide an option for shelter, and that gives them the ability to enforce upon public camping within you know, public areas, and to be ability to provide a solution for them to move to. That's currently under construction, expected to be done by November 21st. The Randall, which most people have referred to as either behind McDonald's or the Mill District Affordable Housing, but it does have a name. It is the Randall. I learned that it was named after a former board president of Eden Housing. So the Randall is currently under construction, as many of you see every day as you come into Healdsburg, and it is currently leasing. So one thing that I have heard back is that as they were leasing and the applications that came through, what they did see is about 70% of the applications were a live work preference under our local preference ordinance for those that applied. That's a big positive note, meaning that locals have been able to access that, and that local preference ordinance that we have is being you know, used in a manner that helps people move up in the lottery, with the preference being for those that work in Healdsburg, then in a wider area, and then finally towards Sonoma County, but it starts locally, and so that's positive news around that. The Burbank scattered site project is, we'd like to call it, is 3 apartment buildings we bought back in 2019. They are under construction, and Piper and University over there at 500 Piper Street and 531 University is, if you drive by those, you'll see that they've been torn down significantly. There was quite a bit of work to be done, but they are going to be improved, and they're going to have efficiencies, and the residents are excited that they're going to have air conditioning and some of the things that don't come with buildings that were built a long time ago. Those are on a rolling basis, but they bring us additional 39 units of affordable housing in the city. They preserve the naturally occurring affordable housing. So those are still under construction. Monte Vina, the one over on Prentice, will be the last one to be renovated. It's currently housing those that were at Piper and University, those being built, and they should be complete towards the end of spring of 23. So those are the ones that are under construction. And then we have a lot of projects in planning. We have Saggio Hills, which is coming up for a planning commission for the DA and, for their development agreement and other related entitlements in January to the planning commission. Saggio Hills, as many remember, is the inclusionary portion of the Montage project, in which we received land back and some funding for improvements. This is being done by Friedberg Development. It will provide, up to 117 units, of which, between 10 and 17 will be for sale products that will connect towards Parkland Farms. And then 155 Dry Creek is Burbank Housing, just completed its design review, and we're working on the DD&A with them. What's exciting about those is that they're on a parallel track. So in 2023, 2024, 2024, we should really see a lot of available units start to come online, and that will provide some of these housing units for others that will be able to afford. So the North Village is up in the Comstock. That is in the development process, currently looking at the unit mix on that, but that is still another project that's on the pipeline to be delivered, along with Enzo Village, which is currently being constructed as well. So the real question is, what does that mean for us? And I'd like to share, I think the message that I would like to present is that we've done a really good job at meeting our state housing goals. If you look at the chart that's in front of you, this is what will be in front of the Planning Commission as part of our housing element on October 11th. But if you take a look at our arena allocations and the pending and permitted units that we have in the pipeline, and you look at the number of units that we're acquiring and converting and the amount of ADUs that we're projecting, you can see that over the next 8 years, what the state has asked us to do, we are already well on, if not exceeding those projections already. We already have most of those units into construction. So the message that I like to share is this is our ability to be aspirational. We are doing the basics of what the state has told us to do very well. But now we have the opportunity to really dive in and look at what we need in our community and to build programs that are very specific to us. And not just meeting state numbers, but really meeting the needs of the community. And not that we haven't been doing that before, but this gives us the ability to really, really focus on that. So you can see that we are doing a good job towards meeting our state goals. The end of the cycle is coming up. And so with that reminder, I would say, be sure to check out our housing element public draft. It's up on the website right now. It's available for review, and we're taking comments on that from September 30th to October 30th. Those comments can be mailed or dropped off at City Hall. And of course, my door is always open to anybody that would like to talk about the housing element. It doesn't matter who it is, I'm happy to talk. I think that in our community, we have that ability, like presenting to the chamber today, that people can come in one-on-one and talk about a housing element and not have to go through a layer of bureaucracy. I'm happy to do that. But that public review is up, and I do encourage people to provide comments. It outlines our strategies, programs, and goals for the next 8 years. The next place that you can talk about the housing element is at the Planning Commission hearing on October 11th. And so with that, I don't want to take up too much more time, so I'll ask if there's any questions. And I appreciate the time this morning, and thank you very much.
Hey, Stephen, is the 155 Dry Creek project the one over there by the plank?
Yes.
Okay. And wasn't there some issues created about something about water or something like that, because there was some grading that had been done and created some pools or
Yeah, so it's an interesting project, and we generally, I mean, there's a joke on the inside that we have a wetlands project that has housing on it, because largely the focus has been dealing with the wetlands, and the wetlands are surveyed and require coordination. There's coordination with the Corps of Engineers on them, the Regional Water Quality Control Board. There's a lot of different planning processes, but what we were successful in doing is being able to utilize a small portion of the project and preserve the wetlands without having to do any offsite improvements. That saved, when I say offsite, like moving wetlands to a different area. There are a lot of offsite improvements as far as undergrounding utilities, improving Dry Creek, and the infrastructure. But yeah, it was a very challenging project around the wetlands issue. But fortunately, we were able to use kind of what Hotel Trio did, is more of a front-facing project, and so we were able to utilize the front portion of the project while preserving the wetlands towards the back.
Yeah, my recollection is we'd created that wetlands by some grading that we did years ago. So we made our own problems there. So
I heard that, and it's interesting because, yeah, I heard that, these weren't just naturally occurring, but rather from ponding water, and the vegetation came in later. But regardless of that, we still had to do that, analysis and mitigation.
I was looking at your chart on the allocations that we have. One of them was like, under the extremely low. It seemed like we had some of that coming online, but do we have to meet each one of these categories, or is it just the whole lower category that we've obviously done 120% of? Does that take care of it for us?
That's interesting, is because they do, you have to meet every category, and they don't just say, okay, well, since you did more in this one, it's specific to each category. And the focus obviously is on that 299 number. Those are the most difficult to produce. Within those 299, what you have is the extremely low and very low. Those are generally lumped together and they're not separated out. Extremely low is 30% or below, and we're talking at that point, you're talking rents that start at like 589 and go down to 0. So really, that is those are difficult to build because obviously the cash flow doesn't support the construction. But with the acquisition of the L&M, those can count towards that, and then also some of the tax credit projects that we're doing will count towards it. But the extremely low and the very low are lumped together, whereas the low are their own separate category.
Oh, they are. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're good, basically.
We're doing very well, but I would caution to say that one thing that that we'll present to the council is an additional work plan for the housing element work group that's been so instrumental in delivering this housing element, is to also start looking at additional areas of focus, such as infill development and the development of duplexes and fourplexes, perhaps with home ownership. Also looking at middle income home ownership opportunities and what programs that we can do with that. And looking at other constraints that within our city that maybe we could alleviate to help increase housing production to get more families back in Healdsburg. So we'll be presenting a work plan to the council, I believe, in November on that issue, and asking them to weigh in on that. And then from there, we'll start diving into that. Some of the areas that we could look at are, downtown density and what capacity that we have in that arena for housing development and other programs that, can advance affordable housing as well.
Okay. Ron, I see you've got your hand up.
Yeah, on the Piper and University projects, it's really good to hear that those residents were moved to another unit while that's being happening. So when those are completed, will those units that they're in be available for affordable housing? And is this a model that can be used for other projects, though, particularly like if a area of homes is removed for apartments? Does the city have the ability to provide space for those current residents while the property is being developed? Thank you.
Yeah, so I appreciate the question, and I'll start with the model. And one thing that we've learned is that the cost of acquisition and rehab for preserving naturally occurring affordable units is not only beneficial to keep long-term residents that have rented in Healdsburg here, but it also is cheaper than actually going out and doing new construction. And so acquisition and rehab is definitely a strategy that we outlined in our housing element moving forward. There's a lot of fourplexes within our community that have been long-term owners, and they're at risk of being sold and converted into market rate. And I think the easiest thing that we can do is preserve what we've got as we're building. So I definitely have that outlined in our housing element as one strategy is to acquire units. The second thing is, as we acquire units, it's actually mandated that we do provide relocation services. And so as a government agency, we can't just ask people to leave. Well, we can ask people to leave, but we need to compensate them for it. And as part of the Piper University, people were either offered an alternate site to live at, which was Montevina, or they were paid, several months worth of rent at what would have been market rate for them to be able to find another place. We make sure that we don't displace people. And the only people that generally take that are those that want to leave in general, or that are over income and they would free up a unit for somebody that would qualify. So regardless if you were over income or you wanted to continue to live there, you had a solution presented to you at that point. And we'll continue to move forward with that model. Not only is it mandated, it's the right thing to do, at least from a government agency.
All right, Eric, Drew?
Unmute. On the above moderate, the 264 units that are listed as above moderate, can I assume that number is primarily Mill District, maybe 140 units, and Montage Estates around 60, leaving about 64. Are those reasonably correct numbers? Most of those are Mill District and Montage.
Yeah, what we did for this exercise, and you called it out, Eric, very aptly, is that we were looking at what's in the pipeline currently that we know will eventually pull permits within the next 8 years. So these are the projections based on that. So pending could be, permits that were on reserve as well as the way you broke it out, I think was pretty accurate. So above moderate, of course, is anything that anybody builds that's a housing unit that's not deed restricted at this point. So you can also see that some of the ADUs that we have are projected in there as well. One thing I did want to note is that we are about to have a record year of ADUs come through. We've only seen increases in production in ADUs over the past 3 years. And this year is looking to prove to be probably the highest number of ADUs that we have submitted for both in construction as well as submitted for permits as well.
Stephen, where do the Enzo Village units sit in this?
So the Enzo Village would be, what we had to do in a lot of these RENA projections here was to capture what was in the DA, and there's been modifications to some of those units. So they, based upon the allocations that we have here in this chart, the Enzo ones would probably be falling into the categories that they originally had in their DA, and those may need to be modified a bit, but we had to take a snapshot at some point.
I'm not talking about the affordable.
Dive into a little bit more detail on to get you the exact answer on where exactly those units are.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about the 10 affordable or the 20.
Okay.
I mean, like the 200 others or however many market rate units.
Yeah, the Enzo units would definitely fall above moderate.
They aren't on this schedule, correct?
And that may be, I don't have the exact breakout right now, but I could definitely follow up with the chamber. I'm happy to do that. But the other question is that, the types of, the Enzo units definitely count towards housing. It's just whether the category that if they're in the above moderate, they were broken out into several different categories, but I can definitely follow up with more of that information and break these out into projects. I actually have that chart, but just not with me right now.
Hey, Stephen.
Yes.
I'm wondering if you can go back. It's kind of small on the screen, but if you go back where you have the photo there, can you kind of highlight for people where the, too far, where the Enzo Village there, that picture on the top right, if you could kind of show where the hotel is, where the Enzo Village section is, and where the affordable housing is. I think the affordable housing is in the middle. It's not what's being built now. That's the retirement community, correct?
Right. So that portion, excuse me,
I shouldn't say Enzo Village, North Village.
Yeah, the North Village, yeah, is a portion of the project towards the, as you mentioned. So Enzo is taking out the portion, and then I believe towards the south would be the hotel project, and then followed by the affordable. But I apologize, I don't have a graphic that kind of shows the entire project is necessary, but I think
I think it's the 3 buildings in the middle that are
right. So what
stacked.
we have,
Yeah.
right, and then over here would be the commercial mixed with the other, and then hotel. You'll have to forgive me, I don't have the best representation for that.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else have questions for Stephen? Not seeing anything. I want to thank you very much. We have a proposition coming up, Stephen, that would speak to funding for some projects.
Well, I believe that'd be measure L, but that would be more related towards the parks funding. I see Jeff jumped on right here, and I'm sure he'd be happy to.
Yeah, I was actually thinking I do when we do updates, talk a little bit about Measure L. I think it could help. It's mostly parks, but could help with housing. So I can.
Okay.
Come
All
back
right.
to
Well,
that.
we'll hold that over for you, Jeff. Then, Stephen, anything else that you want to add? Thank you very much. By the way, it was a great,
No,
very
I
comprehensive.
appreciate the time. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. I think we're turning now to City Council. Is it going to be Evelyn or David? Or
I'll cover
Or
what
Ariel.
I'll cover what we had talked about, and then Evelyn will talk about what's coming up. I think that's what we talked about, Evelyn, right?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so I'll jump in. A couple of exciting things. You know, we obviously didn't have this meeting. I think we skipped a month. And, you know, so a couple of things, I'll just highlight the notable ones. So that it was actually on the consent calendar, but it's a big deal. We approved $1 million for the design of the municipal recycled water pipeline project. And that's to bring the reclaimed water from that beautiful second largest floating solar project in the United States to bring the reclaimed water into town. So that's a really, really big deal. That is part of the bigger plan of what we're doing to address some of the drought issues, whether it's the aquifer storage recovery system or bringing the purple pipe into town. So that is finally moving. We also renewed the Healdsburg Tourism Improvement District for another 10 years. That, as you know, it is a 2% transit occupancy tax that the hotels charge their guests, that then is used to help bring guests to Healdsburg, which then in turn supports everything else that flows from there. We passed a REACH code with exemptions for gas cooktops and fireplaces. And then some other exciting things. We have a number of grants that we were able to get, and this is where it's important to have council members that are engaged with their own council, because a lot of these came through SCTA, and I'd be happy to let Ariel chime in a little bit on these, but there's some that just the awareness of the funds there and going and getting them. We now have an e-bike share program that's going to be starting up here in a couple months. If you at the farmers market a couple weeks ago, you would have seen the bikes, and compared to the previous bike share program, which had specific locations that really didn't extend too far north, we're looking at having bikes in the parks so that it's definitely like resident focused, so that people can hop on an e-bike, ride downtown or whatever, and it's very price competitive. And there are a number of other grants, 1.3 million for Ward Street area and 2.5 million for the Grove Street roadway improvements. And then we're also working on, we had applied before, and I know Larry's been working really hard on this one, and other city staff, to get the $10 million for the North Healdsburg Avenue improvement projects. And our fingers are crossed. We think we have a pretty good shot at that. And that's for Powell Avenue all the way north to the county line. And it would include bike and pedestrian lanes, kind of take that 5-lane former freeway down to one direction each way, a middle turn lane, and then the bike lanes on the end, that in the case of an emergency can accommodate emergency vehicles and evacuations. And so it'll not only be a much more prettier project, but it should be a lot more efficient for traffic for bikes, pedestrians, and cars. Believe it or not.
What street is this?
This is Healdsburg Avenue, from Powell Avenue all the way north. So through Dry Creek, going all the way up past Parkland Farms.
Okay.
Let's see. And then we also approved for next year the 2023 Healdsburg Wine and Food Experience. And this time they're going to have the entire back parking lot. And the farmers market is going to be moving to the plaza, which I think will be a real nice thing for when people come to that event, and then they get to experience the farmers market on the plaza and just all the good things about Healdsburg. So we're excited about that. So that's all I have. And before I turn it to Evelyn, Ariel, do you want to chat real quick about the dollars and, you know, how you're able to, through your role on SCTA, grab some of those dollars?
Sure. Thanks, Councilmember Higley. I'll just add that I think we are really fortunate that we have incredible city staff in Director Larry Zimmer, for our Public Works Director, who is very engaged and aware of the grant opportunities. And as we're hearing about federal infrastructure money that's flowing through the states, he's doing a great job of being aware of how that's going to flow down to cities and positioning a lot of these projects that have been in our capital improvement program, or that for 20 years. And so we're able to realize some of these projects and go after those grants. And then I just get to advocate for them at SCTA, which has been wonderful. And I just want to reiterate that we're really well positioned to go after some of those big grant opportunities, thanks to our staff and kind of a coalition of support from the whole council. So it's been a fun opportunity to have the seat at SCTA while we get to go out and bring home some of those big projects for the city.
Yeah, and I think that just speaks to, our council, and, whether it's NCPA, SCTA, or any of the other commissions and everything that we serve on, our role in advocating for the city extends beyond just the city limits here. It's, when we're in those positions, if we see an opportunity, we jump on it. So
I'd also just love to add really quick, I think one of the other reasons why we've been incredibly successful is a lot of these programs or these grants require a local match. And because we've been pretty fiscally conservative and saving funds in reserves and otherwise, we're able to position some of those funds to actually go out and quadruple down on our local match. So I also want to give kudos to our council and city manager for being fiscally prudent so that we have those funds ready. A lot of other cities are just not in the same strong financial position as we are. And so their grants don't score as high, and we get to go out and scoop up those funds.
Hey, David, my recollection from when we talked about the Purple Pipe program before is that the people actually, we have sufficient water to kind of service mostly city areas like parks and the golf course, but it won't necessarily be available for residents at this point. Is that right?
So what we're looking at, ultimately, it would end up being, I think the number was 40 or 45 million gallons of drinking water that's being replaced by reclaimed water that currently is being used to irrigate the golf course, the parks, and cemetery, all that stuff. So just by swapping that out, it creates a pretty good supply of drinking water that's now available for these very efficient affordable housing units that are coming out of the ground. And as the residents, where the biggest use is really from the residents and all the older homes that we all live in, that some of them you flush the toilet and 30 gallons of water goes down the pipe. So it's that kind of stuff that as the residents start to swap things out, it gets better. For what we're looking at is right now, a lot of the reclaimed water, people have to drive out, which is and put them in the tanks and bring them in. But what we're talking about is having a location that I don't think we've identified a specific location, but it'll be closer into town or within city limits where people can fill up their tanks, or the water delivery trucks can fill up, which also helps, reduce the stress on the neighbors outside of our area where the trucks are having to go get everything. But
Okay.
that's the ultimate goal.
And the path for the pipe, I mean, I'm assuming we're gonna end up pulling up some streets and stuff to get it there. Do you have
Yeah,
a recollection
so
of what that is?
Jeff, maybe you can speak more to this. I remember this came to me back in 2000, it was like 2017, when City Manager McKalian was there, and we looked at it, and the cost just didn't make sense. So the decision by council at the time was to really send the pipes out toward the vineyards to get rid of some of the water. But it's got to come across the Russian River, or Dry Creek, and then under the freeway. So there's a couple of complicating things. But Jeff, do you want to touch on the route?
Yeah, we haven't nailed down the route, so I'd hate to get anybody too alarmed about streets yet. Part of what was just explained is this was initially a $15 million project. It is a $15 million project. We have 7 and change from the state. What our team has done, which I think is really smart, is say, all right, let's not, I actually think we're going to get the rest of that money too in time through the federal government. But instead of sitting around waiting for that to happen, let's bifurcate this project and find a way to get to some of those key city infrastructure locations, not all of them, but some of them, and look at where we can set up a filling station. What that means is the exact route is, that's exactly what that design contract was. You're right, Mark, we're gonna make a mess a little bit when we do this project. We'll probably come away with some nicer streets when it's done, but there will be some construction for sure. But that's exactly what we're working through. So I hope that comes back to the council in the next couple months.
Right. Hey, what is happening with the Cherry Building and that whole site? And what didn't Foley have some money for us? And I don't know if I remember what happened with all of that.
Yeah, I can do a quick update on that too. I haven't actually as of yesterday, so I haven't even talked to the council members. Got some good news about us. We are in environmental review purgatory on that project. Not actually, but we knew this was coming. It's not a sign of concern, but it's been going through the CEQA process, which is painful. So we're doing geotechnical studies, we're doing noise studies, we're traffic impact, all the stuff we knew we had to do. So it's not a big deal, but it's a total pain. And so that's why this project is sort of dropped off the radar for a lot of people. We're in the home stretch on that, and we haven't, nothing bad has come up. So we finished the last of those studies yesterday, and we're compiling them now. So I think we're finally getting pretty darn close to having some good, exciting news and getting that thing started. It'll be coming before the end of the year to the Planning Commission to the technical term of probably what we'll do for the environmental review is a mitigated negative declaration. So we're preparing that, and then it would have a final design review. It's already been for preliminary design review through the Planning Commission. If that happens, we get plans ready and we put the thing out to bid early next year. So it's been quiet for a while, but we've been working really hard. And I haven't even updated the council members yet, but got some pretty good news on the environmentals yesterday that we're getting there.
Great, that's great. Anybody else have any questions for David or Evelyn or Ariel for the city council?
I think what I'd like to do is turn it over to Evelyn, who can talk about some of the things that are coming up that we're going to be tackling here.
Okay, great.
Yeah, thank you. And but before I get into that, I just want to say thank you to the chamber for the endorsing my candidacy, and also for Ron's candidacy. So he's here on this meeting. Thank you. That was a huge thing, and I know that the chamber doesn't normally go that route. So I think this is pretty significant, and I really do appreciate it. Second thing is we've got another forum this evening at the Raven at 6:30. So you may, I think they're going to try to stream it, but you may or may not want to go to it. Depends on how much you can stomach of questions and answers like that. But so I just wanted to get that out of the way before I go on. We have some things that are pretty important coming up in the, as of now, it's scheduled for next meeting, unless Jeff nods and says no. We've got the contract for Reach for Home for the management of the L&M Village. And the climate mobilization strategy kickoff is scheduled for the next meeting. Is that still true, Jeff? October 17th, or is it pushed?
True. Stephen can correct me on Reach for Home. I don't remember that. the discussion of the climate mobilization strategy is definitely still on, so.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think that's going to be an important discussion. Clearly, there's a lot of work. It's a really heavy lift for the city, and for Andrew, our assistant city manager, is kind of spearheading getting that together. So watch for that. It's going to be an opportunity for the city to look on an individual department by department basis as to how we can reasonably and effectively impact climate within our city, and actions that we can take that are meaningful. So I'm looking forward to that piece. We're going to look at some land use code amendments in that meeting as well. And then the November 7th meeting, the day before the election day, don't forget to vote. The 22-23 chamber agreement is going to come before us, and some fire and building code ordinance introduction. So that's kind of what's on tap, big picture for the next couple of meetings.
What, I know a bunch of figures were thrown around about the cost for management of the L&M. What are we looking at with that contract?
I would ask, is Stephen still on? Yeah, there he is. Stephen.
Yeah, so the management for the L&M is wrapped into the state's grant fund. So we received about 1.3 million from the state for the management over a 3-year period, and then an additional grant from the county. So the operation of the L&M is right around $900,000 a year. That includes the case management, the operations of the facility, the staffing, and then as well as, maintaining the property and all the accessories that go with that. And
they provide psychological, social services for them.
So
it's a short-term occupancy, right?
right, it's definitely a short-term occupancy. It's designed to be an interim solution for transition to permanent. There will be mental health workers on site. Some will be provided by the county. Largely, psychiatric or any higher level of care would be coordinated through appointments, but on site we'll have a liaison from the county that will help us access those services. And that's something we're working through with them right now, but it's going to be a great model that most home key projects will get, is that we're creating direct access to county services. So that will expedite things quite a bit.
That's great. Do we have something online for the future to continue funding once we run out of the couple $1 million that we have available, or whatever it is?
Well, we do have a 7-year commitment from the county. It's not the entire amount, but it is close to about $3.2 million that the county is committed to operational funds over the life of the project for 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
The 1.3 from the state covers a 3-year period, but obviously there's a point where that money starts to run out. Good news is there's quite a few grants that are coming down. There's additional money in homelessness services from the state. The other thing that we've been working with the county on is advocating to keep these sources of funding on a yearly basis. They've often been like, well, here's 1 year's worth of funding. Now we don't have any. So we're asking for the HAP program, which can be used to fund the L&M to continue. So there's quite a bit of money coming down the pipeline, and we're very aware of, getting ahead of that and getting money secured up front. So the longer we can make the operational funds last, the better.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Good news. Okay, Jeff. Or wait a minute, do we have anything else for Evelyn out there? Anybody have any questions or any other comments, Evelyn?
No, that's pretty much it for now. Thank you.
Okay, great. Jeff.
So thank you. Just a couple things for me. I appreciate the council members. Makes me feel good to hear that we'll do better than I can on the list of things that we're working on. So I hope that sounds like a lot to everybody. It does to me. So I appreciate that update. A couple things. One is I got a reminder. We were talking about Cherry Building, the 3 North project. We're also working, and I know the HTID at least is aware of this since they've been a supporter, but with the AV Film Society, which is looking to do a theater project at the old brewing space at Bear Republic. So our staff it's a tricky building, tricky land use situation. But our staff is working with them to try to make that work. I think it's been a good discussion so far. I know they're fundraising, so there's a few variables here, but just it's a pretty interesting synergy when you start to look at Little Saint and that project and 3 North and the farmers market in a part of town that's fine, but maybe could be really humming. So just wanted to note that as well. We actually have some zoning code land use changes that were approved by the planning commission last month, which should help that project, not just about that project, which should help it. And those are coming to the council in the next couple of meetings. So just wanted to flag that. And then the one thing I just wanted to touch on a little bit is that we do have 2 items on the ballot. As city staff, I'm not in a position to advocate for those, though I suppose the history is that staff recommended and the council unanimously voted to put them both on the ballot. So there's that. One is Measure L, which Mark, you asked about before. This one is one, quite frankly, it gets a little technical and we're struggling to try to explain it to people because I think there's some risk that people won't know what it is if we don't do a very good job explaining it. A mailer hit my mailbox yesterday, I think. So I think everybody in town should be getting a pretty detailed mailer, which talks about this. How we got to this is one of the adopted council goals last year was to come up with a funding strategy for 2 really amazing transformative park projects. One is the new park up at Montage Sagio Hills, where we have 39 acres of land and a handful of millions of dollars from developers. And just what I consider just an amazing vision for a park up there. And as part of that same work, we also have a redevelopment of Badger Park vision, which would add some basic things like improving the dog park, improving the community garden, adding bathrooms. But then the really big piece is getting a lot of invasive species out there and using that park as an opportunity to open up public access to the river, which I think is a real untapped opportunity that we have in front of us throughout the city. So I know the council's excited about those. I'm excited about those. As we looked at putting together said funding strategy, with the growth we've had in TOT funding, we see a real opportunity to go out and get some money, potentially through a bond issuance, and get these projects done. This will obviously have to be reviewed in the wake of the current rates going on these days, but I think it still makes sense. And get those projects done in the next few years rather than waiting to accumulate the funds, which could take a decade plus. And history is that construction costs go up way faster than interest rates, and those projects could be perpetually out of reach. So we had a plan that was exciting, and then we looked at the TOT ordinance, and it is a little bit ambiguous about the ability to build major capital projects with those funds, even though I think the community always has believed that these are money for parks and community services. And it is absolutely silent about the ability to finance and pay principal and interest on the cost of building those capital improvements. So what we're looking to do is clarify that ability to build capital projects and to finance capital projects. And so it's a clarification in my mind of our TOT ordinance. It does not change the amounts of TOT that go to community services and affordable housing, and it does not change the rate. And it's definitely not a measure to put a bond like you see sometimes with school bonds, totally different thing. It is not a measure to put a bond on the rolls to issue that bond and then have it show up on anybody's property tax. That is not going to happen. So I think for the most part, what we're doing is clarifying what the voters always intended with those community services funds, which is as the revenues grow, we can use them to build parks. And we have a plan to build parks. And so I think it's really a clarification there, but explaining that has been a challenge. To the question you asked before, Mark, and this is mentioned in the materials we're putting out, the same language change would also apply to the 2% for affordable housing. That is not the lead headline to me right now. We actually have the funds in the plan to make those parks happen. 2% on affordable housing. I think this could be useful in the future, but we're not generating the kind of funds right now. We're going to be issuing debt or building major capital with that. We do great things with those funds because we have great people working, but it's not the kind of dollars where we're going to go out and build a $30 million structure anytime too soon. It could, however, be very useful in the future. So that's relevant, but really, as Stephen said before, this is first and foremost about, we have some, what I think are really generational park projects, and we have a plan to get them done. And this is a clarification to the language that we think is necessary to make that happen.
And as far as the money that's being used for the parks now, basically the money that we'd be using to pay off the bond would be money we'd be otherwise setting aside to build the project as it got more expensive.
Yeah, as we've outlined it right now, it would be principal and interest would be roughly a third of the new community services TOT money we've been receiving as of the last couple of years, the growth, roughly a third of the growth. And I think that context is that, we're not gonna put that in it gets pretty technical pretty fast, but for a group like this one, I think that's important. I hope it's obvious that city management and city council is the furthest thing from being kind of aggressive with leveraging ourselves here. It's a really modest share of the growth. We are also fully committed to expanding the amount of money we put into deferred maintenance. To Parks, City Council has already approved a major increase in the current budget to deferred maintenance funding and strengthening our programming. The truth is we can do all of those things. We just need to have a pretty good long range plan to make it happen. And I think we do have that.
So Jeff, can you, in real dollars, and I don't remember the exact, but like our current TOT total is about $4.5 million and it's projected to go to what, 8.4, I think was our projection. Like it's supposed to jump quite a bit. And then if I recall, the debt service was like, the number at the time with old interest rates was like 1.7 million to service the debt.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The only clarification I make is it already has jumped. So yeah, it's about pulling in about 8 now. And that's exactly right. These are all preliminary projections, but we're projecting about 1.7 to make those 2 projects happen.
So that's kind of where the discussion was. Like right now we're at like 4.5, whatever. And then with the new hotels coming online, it's projected to go up to 8.5 million. So you could save up bits and pieces. So really the question is, all right, we have an opportunity where we could potentially bond against it. And then the community can decide yes or no.
Yeah, and we're already on that way. Because did you say we're already at about 8 now?
We are.
Yeah. Great. Okay, sounds good. Anything else, Jeff?
That's I'm happy to take questions, but otherwise that's probably good.
All right. We have any questions for Jeff out there? If not, anybody else have anything they'd like to bring up to the committee or?
I'd like to just speak for a few, Mark.
Sure.
First of all, I wanted to thank council and everyone for the renewal. That was a good 2.5 years of hard work and a lot of working with outside consultants and making sure that everybody was happy with the direction we were moving. So I just want to say thank you very much to the council for unanimously supporting that. I also did want to mention our endorsements, and we don't often endorse, but we felt is really important in this election that we had business-friendly candidates. So Evelyn, who is on the phone, Councilmember Evelyn Mitchell, Ron Edwards, and Susan Graff. And I know, Ron, you're on here too. Thank you and congratulations to all of you. I also want to mention that we have a seminar series coming up, and I'm putting
Oh, I think you just cut out on us, Talia. Or it looks like you're muted.
Oh, weird. That was odd. Okay. I just put a link in about our new seminar series that's coming up for fall. It's an educational opportunity for any businesses. There's going to be 3 total seminars, which are in this link, but they're only $20 each, and they're with our members that are professionals in these areas. So we're doing one on October 12th for content creation with Which Digital. October 26th will be about chamber benefits and how to utilize those with Jessica Bohan on this call. And then November 30th, we're having an HR roundtable on the newest and hottest HR topics with Links Employers. And we have 2 HR consultants coming in for that. It's also only $50 for all 3 seminars. So it's a really good opportunity if you want to send some team members to these. They should be highly educational and of good value. So anyway, I just wanted to thank everyone for that. Also mention that we do have the date of December 2nd currently held for Mary Healdsburg. We have ordered the tree and started working with the city. and we're looking forward to another big celebration out on the plaza. So that's it for me. Jessica, do you have anything that I may have forgotten?
We're also facilitating Halloween trick or treating with the businesses. It'll be Monday, October 31st, 3:30 to 5:30. We're going to be announcing on Facebook and everything later today, and we'll have maps too for all of the participating businesses around the plaza.
Could I also just mention, you reminded me of this, it's not a chamber event, but the Halloween Dog Parade is going to be on October 22nd. So I'm hoping that you all will join us there. I'm going to be the MC, and we're going to have a lot of city people who are going to be judging the contest. So it's a fun time. Please plan to come to that.
Snickers and I enjoyed judging last year, but we'll be in town this year. So we are encouraging other dogs to dress up. So Jeff, you're new. It's sort of something you have to do as an initiation. So you have to dress up with your dog. So I just want to let you know.
And we're going to ask you to be a judge.
I have no idea how much consideration and time Halloween costume dog planning.
This sounds like a job for the director of housing services. Funny. Okay.
Also note too, for Halloween events or holiday events, Protozone is hosting their Dia de los Muertos event on Sunday, October 30th from 12 to 5:30. So that'll happen, I believe, on the plaza as well.
All right, we've got a lot of things coming up. That's wonderful. Anybody else? Anything out there? If not, again, I want to thank you, Stephen, for being our keynote speaker. It was a great job. I actually liked the shorter version of the PowerPoint with more information behind it. That was really well done, I thought. So thank you very much. And of course, thank to all the city staff and especially the city council people who, you donate all your time and, services to this. Is just awesome. We really, really appreciate it. And look forward to seeing everybody next month. Thank you very much.
Also, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, we are working on the calendar for next year and how we're going to go about it. So if you have either ideas, you want to see it back in person, you want to continue on Zoom, or you have ideas on topic and speakers, we'd love to have your suggestions.
And I'd like to thank the chamber for their endorsement. I really appreciate that.
No, you're welcome. Congratulations.
And can I just also one last little thing to congratulate Griselda in her new position. Welcome. It's very exciting to have you in that role. Thank you.
I think she just hopped. Oh, there she is. Okay.
Thank you. I'm very happy to step into this role, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Well, thank you, Griselda. All right. Anything else, Talia?
No, thank you, Mark. We appreciate you always facilitating.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. Look forward to seeing you next month. Have a great October. Talk to you later.